Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome again, my dear students, 10th grade students. Here we are again. We are still in Unit 7. Today we have a reading lesson. Of course, we have reading an article. This is student book, page 81. Of course, this is the title of the reading text. This is the Pueblo people of the Four Corners. Students would be able to read and listen to the magazine article, answer the questions about the text, learn a number of new words in context, express their opinions about the topic. So, let's move directly to our student book. This is page 81. As you can see, this is a magazine article about a city or old city, the monument of an old city. See, as usual, we start with the pre-reading question. We start with this question. Work with a partner, look at the photos. Who do you think lived in these houses? How long ago did they live there, and why did they build their houses in this way? So we are trying to have an idea about this city, this old city, before we start reading. So of course you are supposed to have suggested answers. Of course every student can have his own guessings. Let's start with reading, then we will give the answers or suggested answers for these questions. So we'll start with reading, and you are going to listen and read at the same time. Then you will have some questions. Of course, we will use reading again in exercise 3 to answer these questions. Okay.
CD2, track 28. Listen to the magazine article. The Pueblo people of the Four Corners. Mesa Verde National Park covers more than 80 square miles of the Four Corners region of the United States, where the borders of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico meet. It was once the home of the Pueblo people, a Native American civilization famous for its amazing cliff dwellings. The best examples of these incredible homes can be seen in the walls of the park's spectacular canyons. The Four Corners is a landscape of extremes, hot and dry in summer, covered in snow in winter. It isn't an easy place to live, but the Pueblo people made their home here and farmed the land for over 700 years, from 600 to 1300 AD. They built complicated villages. Their name comes from the Spanish word for village, pueblo, where hundreds of people shared the protection of their strong stone walls. Early European settlers in North America were amazed by their building ability. The Cliff Palace is the largest Pueblo cliff dwelling in the park. It's best seen from above, where the building will leave you thinking about how these people could have built such complex houses. The most interesting of all the houses is the balcony house. It is made up of 40 rooms, connected by long, narrow tunnels and built around a series of shared spaces, and can only be visited with a guide. You have to be ready to climb. The only door into the house is at the top of a 10-meter-high wooden ladder. When the Pueblo people lived here, they would have entered their homes by climbing ladders and ropes up the steep cliff wall. Once inside, they would have pulled the ladder into the house in order to protect themselves from enemies. Exploring the maze of tunnels and rooms, you really start to understand what life must have been like for the Pueblo people so long ago. As you stand at the edge of the cliff, looking down into the canyon below and listening to the silence of nature, it's easy to imagine that you have traveled back in time.
Okay, so this is the end of the listening track. course, we still have the fact the Pueblo people's houses in Charco Canyon were the tallest buildings in the USA until the 19th century. So they were the tallest for quite a long time. Okay, let's get back to our old questions. Here we start with number one. Of course, we are supposed to give the suggested answers. So according to the question, here are the answers. Of course, who built the city? The Pueblo people. They are a Native American civilization. Okay, and what time and when? This is from 600 to 1300, which is 1300 AD. And what about the third question, which is why did they build their city this way? Of course, to be safe. So this is number one. Of course, now we are supposed to move to number three. In number two, we have read the lesson, the text. Now in number three, we have this exercise. In number three, read the article again. Find a factual mistake in each sentence below. What do I mean by a factual mistake? A factual mistake. When I say factual mistake, it's not a grammar mistake, it's not vocabulary mistake, it's only fact, or it's a mistake in one of the facts inside the sentence. It means that each sentence tells me something which is quite different from the text. So you are supposed to read the text now by yourself. Now stop the recording here, please. Read the text and try to find the mistake, the factual mistake, in each sentence of the 6 sentences. Okay, after you have tried to find the mistakes, here are the mistakes. We have a number one, the Mesa Verde National Park is in Mexico. Of course, this is the first mistake. You can discover that the national park is in the United States. It's not in Mexico, so here's number one. What about two? The Pueblo people lived there for nearly 700 years. So most students would say that this sentence is true when they read the sentence for the first time. And that's what happens sometimes in your exams. So please try to read the sentence carefully and to be quite precise, to be exact. So the sentence here tells me that they lived there for nearly 700 years. What does that mean? When I say nearly 700, it means it may be less than 700 or it may be more than 700. We have two possibilities, but it's quite close to 700 years. But in the text, we say they lived there over 700 years. It's not less, it's impossible. So I can't say that over 700 years is nearly 700 years, because nearly means less or more. It's not over. So that's why number two is incorrect. Number three, the word Pueblo means build. Of course, this is not true, because Pueblo, according to the text, means village in Spanish. Number four, the balcony house is made of 10 rooms. Of course, it's not 10 rooms, it's made of 40 rooms. So the mistake is in the number of rooms. The only door is at the end of the tunnel. The only door is at the end, at the top of a 10-meter high wooden ladder. So this is the correct sentence according to the text. Some sentences is easy to discover that we are mistaken because you can find the answer clear inside the text. The Pueblo people used ladders and ropes because they enjoyed climbing. Is that true? Of course, it's not because they enjoyed climbing. We said the Pueblo people used ladders and ropes to protect themselves from enemies, to feel safe. That's why they used ropes and ladders. So these are the sentences, and these are the underlined factual mistakes. In each sentence we have one mistake. Okay, now the next thing is to study some of the words inside the context, in context, match the highlighted words in the article with the definitions. Here we have 5 words in 5 definitions. So what are the words? We are talking about borders, where the borders of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico meet. So here is the map, and we have here the borders. So what do we mean by the borders? Dwellings. Native American civilization famous for its amazing cliff dwellings. You can remember sometimes you are asked to give your dwelling, the place of a dwelling. This is the place where you live. Canyons. Homes can be seen in the walls of the park's spectacular canyons. One example about canyons is the Grand Canyon, which is the deepest valley in North America. Settlers. Early European settlers in North America. And the maze. Everybody knows the maze. It's kind of a game sometimes. So what are the definitions? Now stop here again, please, and try to match the 5 definitions with the words, the new words. Okay, let's start our try. What is a complicated system of paths where you can easily get lost? So when you reach to this part of the sentence, you can easily get lost. Which word tells you about something where you can get lost? Of course, this is a maze. Deep valleys with very steep rock sides. It's a very deep valleys. Of course, we are talking about canyons, and we gave the Grand Canyon in the United States, which is sometimes more than 2 kilometers deep. More than 2 kilometers deep sometimes. Just like a mountain, but it's a valley. Places where people live. These are their homes. The place where people live are their dwellings. The dwelling is the place where you live. People who move to live in a new country or continent. These are settlers. To settle is to move to somewhere else to live. And of course you can remember the word settlement or settlers, which usually you can use the word, you can hear the word in the news. Sometimes you can hear about the Israeli settlers or settlements. Of course, you can't say that they are settlers because Palestine is not their own country, so you can say that they are occupiers. They are a kind of occupation. They are not settlers. Okay. And their settlements are not settlements. They are just like colonies. The colony is the places where the occupiers built in the new land. Of course, it's not new. It's new for them. Okay, what about 5? The lines that separate 2 countries or states. The lines between countries or states is the border, and these are the borders. So here are the new words with their definitions from 1 to 5. Of course, we have your turn. Imagine you lived in one of the cliff dwellings 1,000 years ago. What would your everyday life have been like? Okay, you are trying to imagine that something happened in the past. So, of course, you need to use the past perfect here, or the third conditional. If I had lived. This is the past perfect. There wouldn't have been any electricity. Here's one of the ideas. Of course, you are welcomed to give your own sentences, either written or recorded, voice recording, and send them about this question. Of course, we have examples here. I think it might have been fun to climb in and out of the houses every day. Might have been. Here's why we're taking this model to express a past possibility. Past possibility. That's why we use have and past participle after might. Of course, this is everything about today's lesson. Of course, you will be asked to complete with page 71. Of course, you are asked to read the text and answer the question. Then we will do them together next time. Thank you. This is everything for today.